Welcome back to the channel. This is the second episode of the series. So today we're going to be covering a pull day. Okay, the first thing you should know about pull day, or at least how I like to structure it, is it's a little bit different from, let's say, how I would structure my push days and my leg days. For push days, I think you'd notice I do more towards the top set approach, where I'd hit somewhere around the 0 to 1, 0 to 2 reps in reserve. But that's easy to do on a push day, because if you're pressing, you kind of just know if you failed. It's not like you can really cheat. Like if you're benching and you fail, you're gonna get pinned by the bar. So you know what failure is. The problem with a pull day is that a lot of the time when you do a pull exercise, something like a row, you might be, let's say you're getting pretty close to failure, and then you end up using your hips more, using your knees more, you end up jerking more. And for something like a pull down, same thing. Sometimes you do end up leaning back a little bit more, getting a little bit sloppier with your reps. So for the pull days, what I like to do is to go on basically just more of a straight set, working set approach, as opposed to a top set and back off set. The first exercise of this pull day will be the dumbbell bent over row. So the reason I put this up first is because it is a little bit more fatiguing, especially to your lower back. But that is the purpose of putting it there, you know. For me, having the dumbbell bent over row first allows me to work on my traps and my erectors more. So why am I doing dumbbell bent over rows instead of a barbell row? Is because for dumbbell rows, you do get a little bit more freedom in terms of your grip, as opposed to, let's say, a barbell row, which is purely pronated. My issue with that is that sometimes when you row, it does get a little bit uncomfortable on your wrists, especially if you're trying to keep your torso as parallel to the ground as possible. I'm pretty sure you can test it out yourself. Like, just try to row. And if you can maintain a purely pronated hand position, then good for you. But for most people, I'm pretty sure that isn't the case. So yeah, I'm using the dumbbell for that. It allows me to get more freedom, so my hands can twist on the way up. But I do like to keep it somewhere around here, just a little bit angled. Again, this is primarily for my traps, my rhomboids, my erectors, not so much for my lats. So I do keep it just a little bit more flared out than I would with my other lat movements. So in terms of my number of sets for this, I think I go around 2 working sets. Yeah, so 2 working sets, one of which would be a little bit more like a top set, but in general, these just stick around the 1 to maybe 3 RIR range. Not a lot. I usually try to stop my pull exercises when I can feel the exercise or the execution getting a little bit more sloppy. So for something like this, for the dumbbell bent over rows, if I notice myself jerking a little bit more using my hips, I might give myself like 1, maybe 2 reps. But if it gets any worse, and I think you know what I mean. I think you've seen a lot of people in the gym doing the same thing. When it gets really messy, it doesn't really look like a row anymore, kind of more like a shrug, maybe like a deadlift, then you know you're doing it. Well, you might know you're doing too much already. So yeah, that is the first exercise. For the second exercise, what we did today was the hammer strength high row, single arm, lat focused. So here at Iron Supply, we did manage to fix up the setup for this machine. At first, I didn't really like it, using whatever was available there. The handles were initially, since they were fixed handles, the issue was that they were tracking outward You might have gotten a lot more rear delts out of that. I just wasn't really a fan of the movement. So what we did was we added some free handles attached with some carabiners and a loop strap. So that, again, same thing with the dumbbell row. It did give us a little bit more freedom to rotate. Alright, so we can stick to a more neutral hand position, maybe even a little bit more supinated. That allows us to engage our lats a little bit better. So if you're wondering what the hell is that platform there for, basically the seat, that is so I can move myself a little bit further back, because if I just use the machine as is, it would have been a little bit too high, pulling downwards here. Yeah, not so much of a fan unless I'm doing specifically maybe a pull down, but for something like a high row where I just want to engage basically just all lats, I try to keep it somewhere around here. This is probably as high as it goes without my thoracic spine extending. I'm not sure if you can see it. Yeah, so if it goes here, this is probably as high as I can go, keeping my shoulder in one spot, keeping my spine in one position. If I go any higher, usually you'll see my spine extend, you'll see my shoulder rise. So for this exercise, yeah, I just keep it somewhere around here. And when we pull, I try to keep it as close, as tight as possible over here, right? So I'm sort of imagining like squeezing my tricep, or basically bringing my upper arm into my rib cage, and basically just pulling with my lats, pulling from the elbow up and keeping my forearm relaxed. Well, not so much relaxed, but you know, I'm not really using my forearms too much in this movement, not really using my biceps as much as possible. So another thing to remember when you're doing something like this modified hammer strength high row, not sure, some people will benefit from this, some people might not, but for me personally, I do enjoy getting a little bit of lateral spinal flexion there, especially in the end. Obviously not too much where you're actually hitting like your abs or something. But yeah, try to keep it, again, one place, dig deep, maybe imagine driving your elbow towards your hip. That might help for engaging your lats at least. So I'm throwing this movement in there as probably my only like lat specific movement of the day. By the way, this first pull day is more of an upper back dominant pull day. So I'm hitting more rear delts, I'm hitting more traps, I'm hitting more rhomboids, not so much on my lats. So I'll be doing that on another day. I'll cover that maybe in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. And for that, I've been doing around 3 working sets. So my rep range for this would be somewhere around the 10 to 15. I have been going a little bit on the heavier side. I've been enjoying the 10 reppers. Again, as usual, we go as consistent as possible with our eccentrics. I don't really pause it as much as I used to, but yeah, as long as it's going down and then you go on the same tempo going up, it's probably fine. The third exercise we did today was the PRONATED T-bar row. We have that at Iron Supply now, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so the PRONATED T-bar row, again, another upper back movement. This is a lot of traps, a lot of rhomboids, some rear delts. So what you want to focus on here in terms of cueing, I'm not quite sure. Personally, I would have preferred if I could end the range of motion with my forearms somewhere around here. Problem is I'm a little bit too short for the machine, so I do end up pulling it a bit higher, getting a little bit more biceps in there. But it's still good. I get around one set, one top set, one heavy top set. It's pretty easy on the T-bar row because it's not something you can cheat, or I mean you could definitely cheat a T-bar row, but if you're cheating a T-bar row, then the fuck are you doing, man? So yeah, if you're doing a T-bar row, try not to cheat that. First set for me, I go a little bit heavier. So I think today I went for like a 4 to 6 rep range. It wasn't really the best 4 to 6 rep set, but I think it passed. You know, I'm really just using this first set as a way to test the weight. It's not my most comfortable. It's not the one I feel my traps or my rhomboids or whatever. It's not the most feelsy set. It's not the most controlled set, but it's a fair, you know, fair try of like a 4-plate chest supported row. So that's fine. And then for my actual working sets, I did go to I dropped the weight for those. That will be around the 8 to 10 rep range. So still heavy. It's somewhere around the, actually same thing, it's around the 0 to 2, maybe 0 to 3 RIR. So yeah, I did 3 sets total of those chest supported T-bar rows. Those were very good. I also throw them in somewhere around, again, this third exercise, because this will fatigue my erectors much less. So it does hit similar muscle groups to my dumbbell bent over rows, but because it does like release a little bit of stress, a little bit of fatigue from my lower back, I tend to do like more work here, really just focusing on getting a shit ton of proper reps and pretty good stimulus, I guess. Fourth exercise we did today was something we've been testing out here at Iron Supply for a while. This was the reclined hanger cable row. So we're using basically what they're the what you call this, the prime rotate hangers with just your regular D handles. I also elevated the seat just a little bit to line it up. So the difference with this versus your usual cable rows is that for me, this time I am on a reclined position, right? So this way I can, I'm just gonna demo. Alright, so this time when I recline, when I pull, I can get a little bit of a shrug in there whilst pulling the handles towards somewhere around my nipple line. So it's a little bit of a diagonal shrug. I found this might be one of my favorite trap exercises. I've never really programmed, yeah, I'm not sure if I've posted this enough on my Instagram or whatever. Also, you should follow my Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't program shrugs like ever for myself, and very, very rarely for my clients unless they actually ask for it. There's just not, well, I think for me, for something like a barbell shrug or maybe like heavy dumbbell shrugs, there's a little bit too much fatigue versus the stimulus you're getting. You're not really getting much out of it other than, well, some ego lifting, I guess. But if you can find a better alternative, something like this, then yeah, this is probably much better. So for this, I want you to focus on basically that diagonal shrug slash row slash focusing on retracting your scapula while elevating. It's a pretty sick movement. For the handles, I keep it around wherever I would end up. So imagine you're doing it without weight, just how you would end up squeezing your traps the best. That would be somewhere around here for me. So I lined up those hangers, those handles to where my hands would end up, like without them, right? That's good. For that, I went with 3 sets for more trap, like direct trap work. I try to avoid the 8 to 10 rep range. I just don't get much out of it when you basically just elevate without any retraction at all, without a proper squeeze at the top. I really don't get much out of that. So 10 to 15, actually more like 12 to 20 rep range is where it's at for me. For the 5th exercise, we moved on, no more back stuff, we moved on to biceps. So we did easy bar preacher curls, which are fairly simple, but I do think a lot of people I wouldn't call it wrong, but they sort of underestimate the supposed difficulty of training arms, or specifically biceps. If you're training biceps to failure, or to a, you know, some RIR, maybe like 0 to 1, if you're really training it to 0 to 1 RIR, that shit will hurt, man. You can't do that for like 4 or 5 sets. Maybe some people can, or I've done it before, but I'm not sure if I've been hitting failure, if I was, you know, cheating my reps. I'm pretty sure I was cheating my reps. So yeah, for now, I've been trying my best not to cheat my reps. Keeping the same tempo again on the eccentrics there. I don't really go for the pause, I don't really go too slow, just make sure I get a good stretch in a controlled manner, then reverse it back up. Man, I think for biceps, my maximum number of sets for the day, if I'm getting hard sets, might be like 4 or 5 sets in total for biceps. But for today, I stopped at 2. It was pretty heavy. I was chilling at around the 8 to 10 rep range. I have another day for preacher curls again, I think, or not. Well, if I did have another day for preacher curls, that would have gone at a much lighter weight, and I'd probably go for the 12 to 15 rep range in most cases. This is mainly so I will, you know, progress on some strength gains, maybe work on some heavier rep range, just because the rest of my bicep work is closer to the 12 to 15, sometimes even 20 reps. So it's a little bit more refreshing to have something heavy like this where I can chase my progress just a little bit better. So yeah, 8 to 10, maybe 8 to 12 reps. And yeah, I did 2 sets and that's about it. So we move on to the 6th exercise. The last one we did here was for rear delts. So for rear delts, I've been doing a lot of stuff in the past. Rope face pulls, bent over dumbbell reverse flies, meadows rows, rear delt rows, lots of rear delt stuff. Yeah, I've never felt them in the past. I'm not sure, man. Even if I go 10 to 12 reps, when I go 15 to 20, when I go 20 to 30, I don't really feel them so much. I've just never really felt them. But because I did do them the way you're supposed to, I guess, yeah, they still grew. So now I've been testing out this sort of like a new movement, or actually wouldn't call it a new movement. It's a slightly more refined execution of the face pull, based on, well, the feels. So what I did was I used the cuffs and the daisy chains, basically starting from a little bit higher. And what we did was we did a face pull somewhere around like this. Yep, yeah, right. So it goes around there. What I'm trying to do is to keep my wrists and my elbows leveled or aligned, like this way. It does go a little bit here, but as long as it's not going here, for me, I feel it a bit more. Yeah, I focus a lot on the shortened position here. Go a little bit slow and then back up. I don't really go all the way there. I don't really get much of a stretch on my rear delts anyways, so really just basically I'm just chilling here, a little bit more extended, and there. Yep. Fairly simple exercise. I like doing them seated. I've seen a lot of people in the gym doing their face pulls, whether that's on a that's with a rope or with a, I don't know what else are people using for that. But yeah, I mean, you'll see them a lot standing. And what happens is when you're doing a rear delt, like a face pull standing, is you end up like rocking back and forth, cheating the reps. You're not gonna feel that a lot. You're really not gonna get enough tension on your rear delts. So for stability purposes, try to sit down. You can sit down on a bench, you can sit down on the floor. Personally, I prefer sitting on the floor. It's just a bit of a pain in the ass when I have cuffs in there and trying to get up. It's not that easy, man. So yeah, I've been using the bench. So far, so good. I think this is my 3rd, 4th, yeah, maybe my 4th week or my 4th session doing these face pulls, and so far they've been pretty good for me. So if you haven't tried something like that yet, now might be a good time. We did around 2 sets for this. The usual rep range for me for something like rear delts would be the 12 to 15, 12 to 20. Yeah, it's pretty light work. I think when you go too heavy, that's when you have a larger tendency to, you know, to start pulling this way. That will still hit your rear delts for sure. Just again, personally, I don't feel it so much that way. So I try to go lighter so I can maintain this position as much as possible. 2 sets. I'll move that up to maybe 3 sets or 4 sets because I don't really hit my rear delts often either. At least not directly. I'm gonna hit them on the rows. I'll hit them again when I do my lateral raises. Like when I do my lateral raises, I get a little bit of rear delt in there. So there's a lot of indirect action on my rear delts, which means probably only need around 3, maybe 2 to 4 sets per week, and I'll be okay. Of course, that depends on person. So if you have lagging rear delts, or well, if you're just starting out, you might want to start with just a little bit more. That's good. That is the end of my workout. So again, this is pull 1B, which is the same as pull 1A. Someday I'll do pull 2. So medyo marami yan. There's again it's a 2-week microcycle. It does take a while. So that's it, man. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. If you have any questions regarding my pull day, violent reactions. I know a lot of people get a little bit more emotional regarding back exercises. Some people want to say like, yo, you gotta do pull-ups, or you gotta do wide grip for width, vertical for width, or rows for thickness, something like that. But that's not really the case. But you know what? If you guys have violent reactions to what I just said, you can leave it in the comments. Again, if you like the video, if you enjoyed the series, make sure to subscribe to the channel. So I'll catch you guys next week.